Hi, welcome to Gene Rants. I'm Gene, and well, it looks like we'll be talking about the Charlie Kirk assassination today. I originally, well, obviously, I had something else planned for today, and then that assassination happened, and I hesitated about saying anything myself because I knew there would be, and there has been so much commentary on it that I didn't know what I could add, but there is something I can add because I am just, well, disappointed that so many people are missing the point. Well, first of all, I have to start with this, which is that in the house, on the floor of the house, there was a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk, and then somebody said, "Well, silence isn't doing it. Can somebody lead the chamber on a verbal prayer?" And you suddenly got all this shouting from the Democrats, from their side of the aisle, and a woman shouted, I don't know who it was, but shouted, "You're the ones responsible," or something like that. I don't remember the exact words, but in other words, blaming Republicans. Actually, Matthew Dowd, if you don't know who he is or he was a commentator on political analyst, whatever, on MSNBC, which is going to be renamed MS Now, by the way, because it was sold. Anyways, the point is, he said that same thing. He said, well, this right-wing rhetoric, basically Charlie Kirk had it coming. So to their credit, MSNBC this morning, the day before you're seeing this, as I'm recording this, a little bit before, MSNBC fired him. So he's gone. But this projection of blaming blaming Republicans for Republicans getting shot at. And Charlie Kirk was never, I've heard him several times, and he never said anything hateful. He would go into hostile environments like college campuses, liberal college campuses, and just debate. And he also did one, I think, in Oxford, in England, the Oxford Debate Society. And I think that I could be wrong about that, but anyway, the point is that he would just debate people. That's all he ever did. And so you have all these people saying, well, why that people can be killed for, well, this is a one frustrating part, because you even have, well, especially people on the left saying, well, people should be able to speak freely and what they should be saying and not have to worry about getting killed, obviously. But one point that they're missing, which is not the main point for today, but one point is that, well, if you are a liberal, if you a Democrat or just a liberal or on the left, I don't care how far to the left you are, you can speak anywhere, anytime, outdoors, indoors, and you don't have to worry about your safety. You never have to, because you're just not being targeted. Conservatives just don't do that sort of thing. So I'm sorry, find me in well, that's what the comment section is for. Maybe somebody will find one example of somebody. Well, actually, I could. I mean, just to be fair, you have to go back decades to find somebody who shot, I think, killed. Yeah, his name Eric somebody or other. One person who shot somebody outside of an abortion clinic. So, never. I won't say never, but the point is definitely, well, in this environment that we are now, since Trump was elected, as we sit here today, this is what we're talking about today. Even with this abortions clinic shooting decades ago, today, if you are a liberal, you can talk anywhere you want and freely. If you are Ben Shapiro or Ann Coulter or somebody on the right, then I guess you have to just be careful about, if you speak outside, make sure there's no roofs in the area, because, well, that's where this shooter shot from. And we're going to be getting to the shooter in a moment. But this idea that these people, that the conservatives are being shot at because they to stop them from speaking. No, 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 no. It's to stop them from existing, from being alive. It's bear with me for this for a moment, but just it's this age-old question. If you could go back in time and to 1925, when Hitler was just starting to come onto the scene, would you kill Hitler? And or even later in the 1930s, well, anytime, if you could go back into time and shoot Hitler and kill him, would you do it? And a lot of people would say yes, they would do it. And that's the point, is that they think, well, Donald Trump, this idea, well, because people are calling Donald Trump Hitler, and that kind of rhetoric inspires people like that. No, that's not correct. Those people already, the people calling Trump Hitler, believe that he is Hitler. They honestly believe it. And the people who are committing these murders, like shooting Charlie Kirk, they already believe. When somebody calls Trump Hitler, they're just saying out loud what all these shooters believe. That's what the situation is. And and then by extension, fascists. They call everybody Charlie Kirk. They believe that he is a fascist, or was a fascist, and that he deserved to die, because it's the same to them as going back into time and killing Hitler, and say, well, we can't go back in time and kill Hitler, even though Hitler was a left winger, to use a modern term. Nazism, National Socialism, that was a left-wing party. So that's it's just one of those contradictions. But what we are talking about is something completely different today. We are talking about, well, it's that they believe that they are the white rose. And now you want to know, what is the white rose? The white rose was during Hitler's I hate to use the word administration, his Hitler regime, the Nazi regime. There was a band of college students, same age as the shooter, who shot Charlie Kirk. They have a photo. He's of college age. So these were a group of students at a university in Germany who were opposed to Hitler. Now, they didn't try to kill him. Maybe if they could have had the chance, they would have. What they did was they distributed leaflets. They were printing leaflets, anti-Nazi leaflets, and just distributing them. And what happened was, one day they were in there, they were printing leaflets. They were using, I guess, the mimeograph machine in the college university, and one of the leaflets got wind picked it up or something, and it drifted out of the window and into the courtyard below, and the janitor found it, and that's how they were discovered. And even though they were all executed, they were all tried very quickly, and then they were all executed. So these people think they are the white rose, that they are fighting. Like the white rose is not fighting fascism. That's a right-wing philosophy. They were fighting Nazism, a left-wing philosophy. But anyways, the same idea is that they think that they think they're SEAL Team 6, that I guess the modern equivalent would be SEAL Team 6 killing bin Laden. And it wasn't because of what bin Laden said, it's because of what he was. And they see conservatives, some of these people, in the same light. Now, let's talk about this SEAL Team 6. You have to remember, well, you go all the way back to McKinley, the McKinley assassination. He was assassinated by an anarchist, and so that's on the left. But then you fast forward many years, and then you have, Lee Harvey Oswald was a communist, assassinated JFK, and then you go now to current times. You just have to go back to July, and you may remember, well, if you don't, I'm going to share it right now. Let me put up this headline. ICE agents targeted in 2 ambush attacks in recent days. Now, that was 10 people. I'm going to put their photo up again of all of them. This is the thumbnail for today's vlog. Well, let me put it up again. These are 10 people who, what happened was in Texas, ICE agents, and they actually murdered. Well, it was an assassination squad. They probably thought of themselves, though, think of themselves as SEAL Team 6. They were all 10 of them arrested. And actually, a day or two after that, there was, you may remember, another left-winger shot a cop, hit him in the neck, did not kill him, but shot him. And then the shooter himself was, I might have his name here, let me see, Ryan Lewis Mosqueda. Dozens of shots fired at police officers. And so you're seeing this again and again, but these 10 individuals, you're looking at their photos, they are, well, they all look like a bunch of losers, but they were in tactical gear when they were arrested. They were just they were dressed up like, like SEAL Team 6. They were an assassination squad. The point is that, or take Antifa. How much violence has Antifa? Where is the right-wing equivalent of Antifa? People dressing in black and helmets and masks and makeshift SEAL shields from cutting. What they do is they cut an oil barrel in half, and then they make that into a shield. You're not seeing that on the right. You're seeing it on the left. And and a little aside I have to put, because we're hearing the usual calls for gun control. That's not going to do anything, number one. Number two, that was a gun-safe zone. It was a college campus where Charlie Kirk was assassinated. That's where shooters look for. They look for a gun-safe zone. What factor that would have played in it, because the shooter was on a roof 200 yards away, so might not have mattered, but you get the idea anyway. So just my little, retort expected from the expected calls for gun control. But anyways, getting back to the main subject. So you have, I said, Lee Harvey Oswald, and this is an important difference. I mean, Lee Harvey Oswald was just wearing, when they arrested him, he was in just shirt and jeans, shirt and pants and whatever. These guys were, the 10 shooters were dressed as in tactical gear. They had body armor and all the things that you would expect from, say, a military assault. You can see what losers these people look like, but they imagine they're little Walter Middies, and the point is that we're starting to see this left-wing violence is just going to get worse. And then there's another factor. Now, I'm going to share a quote from a memo. Let me put up a screenshot of the memo. Okay, I'm going to read. I'll read from the memo in a moment. It's obvious, a little hard to read, but that memo, that one, as you can see, it says Louder with Crowder on the as a watermark. Steve Crowder is a conservative commentator. Now, he is the one who was leaked to him the Nashville shooters. Remember him or her, whatever. I mean, you pick your sex, whatever. Him, and because he was a male, but called himself Audrey Hale. Anyways, Steve Crowder was the one who broke that memo. Somebody leaked it to him, and the reason I mention that is because that same source leaked this memo. So that's why I think, and plus the FBI has since held a press conference, and it's already now public, a photo of the shooter, so hopefully he'll be found fairly soon. But the memo, the quote I'm going to give you from that memo has additional information, but what was in the press conference, what information was given in that press conference matches the what is in this memo. So that and the screenshot gives me confidence that the memo is authentic. That's what I'm getting at. So let me just read you this one paragraph, okay, with a little more detail. Because remember, they said to college age that he has had this press conference that I just saw, that it was a high-powered rifle and that there were shell casings found with messages engraved on the shell casing, but they didn't say what the messages were. So now I have those details according to this memo. So ATF, that's alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, ATF and other law enforcement located an older model imported Mauser 30-06 caliber bolt action rifle wrapped in a towel in a wooded area near the campus. The location of the firearm appears to match the suspect's route of travel. The spent cartridge was still chambered in addition to 3 unspent rounds at the top-fed magazine. All cartridges have engraved wording on them expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. That's what is missing. The press conference didn't say what was engraved, so now you know. Transgender and anti-fascist fascist ideology. And let's take here's the quote again, but with one word emphasized. All cartridges have an engraved wording on them expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. And the reason why I point that out is because there were 2 school shootings, Audrey Hale and I forget the other person's name, and they were both transgender. They were both transgender. Those 10 people that I showed you, the 10 suspects in the ambush of the ICE agents in Texas, 2 of those transgender. Here, I got their names here. Well, let me just put it up here. And we have Cameron Arnold and we have Bradford Morris. Cameron Arnold calling himself Autumn Hill, and Bradford Morris calling himself Megan Morris. So you see, what we're talking about is the left. Now, there have been, which I believe, I mean, it used to be what is transgenderism was called, well, I guess our friends on the left want to, which would be those who aren't yet shooting at trying to kill, me and other conservatives. So when I say friends on the left, those are the people I mean. And so you have our friends on the left, they're normalizing transgenderism. Now, there used to be another name for it, gender dysphoria. It was a psychological illness that had to be treated, and now they don't want it treated. They want these people to be part of society, but the problem is that this transgenderism, well, all your psychological problems, in other words, there are other problems, and they go transgender to believe they're another sex, as if that's going to solve their problem, and it doesn't. There's a deeper problem there, and these people are out there, and so our friends on the left are trying to normalize it. And yes, I know that that 8 of these 10 losers were not, gender dysphorics, but that doesn't change the point that there is a problem. Presumably, if those 2 people had been treated correctly and their problem diagnosed correctly, then there would have been 8 shooters there and not 10. So the point is that you're starting to see, I guess you would call it, in a way, almost organized assassination. You're having these groups that are just getting together, or you're having lone shooters. And don't forget, 2 attempts on Donald. Well, one attempt Trump was actually shot, came within millimeters of being killed. And then you have the guy at the golf course who was not able to get a shot off. But to me, that qualifies as an attempted assassination. The guy had the gun, was pointed at Trump, and well, that's James. Did I mention James Hodgkinson? He was the one, a Bernie supporter, strong Bernie Sanders supporter, who shot Steve Scalise, who U.S. representative. It was a charity baseball game between Democrats and Republicans, and he was shot. He survived, but you see, there is this. You have right wingers and you have left wingers, but you have these people on the left who believe that it is okay to kill people, not who say things that you don't like, which is another thing, a little aside, just getting to speak on campus at all if you're a conservative, or if you're an Israeli wanting to talk about, even if you're an Israeli peace activist, well, try to speak on a college campus, and there will be protests, and not just protests marching outside, but we'll try to shut the speech down, or they'll get into the speech and they'll disrupt it, and the speech has to be cut short. So, but there is this section on the left that believes that it is okay, not only okay, I would go farther. They say that it is mandatory to kill conservatives, not for what they say, but for what they are. And I guess I'll end on this, because this is something that you will see. One of the problems is they don't, it's again likening these people to Hitler. Nazism became the dominant political philosophy, and today conservative is. The liberals had all these dreams. Hillary Clinton was supposed to be elected, and then we would have this left-wing, socialist utopia, and she was defeated. And the liberals believe that we are on an arc of history that starting with Karl Marx in 1848, a steady progression to getting rid of capitalism and going onward up to a socialist paradise, and that it's not happening. And when that happens, you lash out. There is actually a statistic on this, it's a historical fact. David Goldman is a person, he actually looked up the number of deaths between, has nothing to do with left and right, but it's related in this situation just to this extent, which is that he did, all he did was he looked at Delhi, how many people died in the Civil War before Gettysburg and after Gettysburg. How many, Confederates died after Gettysburg compared to before Gettysburg? How many Nazis died, German soldiers died after the Battle of the Bulge compared to before the Battle of the Bulge? In other words, what happened to the number of deaths at the point where it became clear that one side was losing the war? Then what happened to the deaths of those on the losing side? Same thing, what happened to the Confederates after Gettysburg? It was clear then the South had lost the war. What happened to the Confederates? Now, this is the conventional wisdom, would be that, well, once you realize that you lost, that you would just give up, or you would stop, or you would surrender because the war is lost. There's no point in continuing to fight. But what Goldman found is that actually the deaths went up. Once it became clear that the South was losing the war, more Confederate soldiers died after. The Nazis, once the Battle of the Bulge, when that battle finished, then it was clear that Germany it would take a few more months, but that Germany had lost the war. The deaths of Nazi soldiers went up. And you would say, why is that? And the reason is, or Spangler's explanation, and that's, I said, well, I said Spangler because it was David Goldman, but he used to write under a pseudonym, Spangler, until it became obvious who he was. So he revealed that it's David Goldman. Anyways, he, uh, his explanation is that, or he was quoting somebody else, was that the Confederates who fought harder, they did not want to live in a world where the Union won, in a world where there was no Confederacy. The Germans who fought, the Nazis who fought even harder, they did not want to live in a world in a democratic journey or Germany, they didn't. You couldn't predict it. They didn't want to live in a post-war Germany, and Confederates did not want to live in a post-war, a post-war America. So they basically committed suicide and decided to take as many people as they could with them, and that's what you're seeing it. I'm seeing it that you're seeing that there are a lot of people on the far left who don't want to live in a conservative country, in a conservative world. I mean, you have people leaving the country. Actually, interesting. I got to throw this aside in here because you had Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres and other people have left the United States because they didn't want to live in a country where Trump, where conservatism is ascendant and where Donald Trump is president. Others have vowed to leave and they haven't. But Ed Sheeran, the singer, he is moving. I believe he's British, and he's moving, British or Irish. I'm pretty sure British, and he could be Scottish. Who knows? United Kingdom. Okay, he's one of His Majesty's subjects. He is moving to the United States, and actually, he's moving. I heard to Nashville. I live in Tennessee, so he's going to be like 4 hours from me. And because I guess if you're an Ed Sheeran fan, break some news for you, because what I read, the scuttlebutt is the reason one reason he's coming to the United States is because he tours so much here. So instead of flying back and forth between Europe and here, better to live here. But also there's a scuttlebutt or a rumor that he wants to get into country music. So Lord knows what that's going to sound like. I hope, if you're out there, Ed, I hope you, because I like country. I saw because you can tell by my age, I lived in Detroit, and there was a traveling show. I've seen Merle Haggard and Dolly Parton and Porter Wagner and Bill Anderson, all the old, Stand By Your Man, what the heck, Tammy Wynette, saw her, all in one show. They would each come up and do like 3 songs or whatever. I saw all of them live many years ago, and modern country to me is just rock and roll 10 years later. In other words, you're going to now see synthesizers are the big deal now, and drum machines. So probably 10 years from now, you can see synthesizers and drum machines. The one thing, I guess I'm going on like this because I'm a musician and I write songs. Actually, you can find me on Spotify, Eugene Allen Schwimmer. Anyways, the point I'm making about modern country is I don't like it. That's number one. And what's his name? Morgan Wallen. I can't. When he comes on, I change the station because he's showing up on the top 40 stations, which I don't like much top 40 music either. Don't get me started. But I hope, however, whatever changes in country music or modern country, one thing stays the same, and that's, at least for the male singers, the heavy Southern accent, baritone heavy, usually a baritone, but heavy Southern accent. The same with the women, Southern accent. I live in Tennessee, and I rarely hear that kind of that heavy of a Southern accent. So Ed Sheeran, you're not an American, and you're not from the American South. So I hope you will keep your original accent. Don't go too far overboard. And I'll give a shout out to Darius Rucker. He was actually the lead singer of a rock band Hootie and the Blowfish, if anybody remembers them. They had one hit, I think, or one single, and then he went off on his own. And he went into country music, but he sings in a regular accent. And actually, Kenny Rogers, the country singer, Kenny Rogers, I believe he doesn't use a Southern accent, not this heavy, or didn't. He died some years ago, but he was originally in a band called the First Edition that was doing kind of psychedelic rock in the 60s. His hit song was, I just checked in to see what condition my condition is in. And if you go on YouTube, you can find it. And then definitely you can find me on YouTube. You already found me on YouTube if you're watching this. As far what condition my condition is in, you can see it. I'm happy to hear what condition your condition is in the comments section, or anything that you care to say at all, pro or con. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I'd love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.